On the 3rd of July 1938, a British steam locomotive reached 126 miles per hour, the fastest any steam engine has ever traveled. That record has stood for over 85 years. Not because no one wanted to break it, but because of what that speed did to the machine that achieved it. Mallard was not just too fast for its rivals, it was too fast for itself. Mallard stormed up the last rise of Stoke Bank, its exhaust hammering the morning air, racing past the summit at close to 75 miles per hour. Ahead, the rails dipped gently away, a stretch of track that railwaymen knew by heart, but few had ever seen at this speed. The gradient here is subtle, almost invisible to the eye. But for a steam locomotive, even a slight downhill tilt is an invitation to run. Gravity joined the power from Mallard's 3 cylinders, and the needle began to climb. Mile by mile, the dynamometer car behind the engine captured every surge, 87.5 miles per hour, then 96.5, then 104. Each milepost flashed by in less time than the last. The crew, driver Joseph Duddington and fireman Thomas Bray, kept their eyes on the track and their hands steady, feeling the engine gather pace as the bank carried them faster still. 107, then 111.5, then 116. The numbers on the dynamometer roll told the story in black and white, but in the cab it was a blur of wind, heat, and vibration. At milepost 90 1/4 south of Grantham, Mallard tipped over the edge from fast to something else entirely. 119, then just for a moment, 126. No British steam engine had ever gone this fast, and the world outside the cab seemed to vanish into the rush. For 1 second, Mallard became the fastest steam locomotive on Earth. Mallard's record run was more than an act of speed. It was a carefully measured event, documented down to the last fraction of a mile per hour. The train behind Mallard was no lightweight. Coupled to the locomotive were 7 coaches, including a specialized dynamometer car positioned directly behind the tender. This car, built for precision, was the heart of the evidence. Inside, a spinning roll of paper traced every change in velocity, using a system of gears and linkages connected to the wheels. Each tick marked another increment in speed every half second, with the paper running at 24 inches per mile. The result was a continuous mechanical log, undeniable proof of what happened on the rails. The dynamometer car wasn't just there to record numbers. It was also the centerpiece of a broader test, the Westinghouse QSA quick-acting air brake. This was the official reason for assembling such a heavy consist on the day. The brake system needed to be tested at the highest possible speeds, and the only way to do that was with a full-length train, not just a locomotive running light. The mass of the coaches, combined with the drag of their bodies, demanded every ounce of power Mallard could deliver. The design of the train, from its length to its weight, wasn't incidental. It was essential. Only by pulling a real-world load could the locomotive's true limits be revealed. And only with the dynamometer car in place could those limits be trusted by engineers and skeptics alike. Every number from that July morning survives because the apparatus was there to catch them, in ink and in steel. The shape of Mallard was not just for show. Nigel Gressley and his team turned to wind tunnels in the 1930s, searching for every possible way to cheat the air. The result was a wedge-shaped nose, smooth side valances, and a casing that swept back in one continuous curve. Where older engines met the wind with blunt force, Mallard slipped through it. Even the smokebox and chimney were shrouded, reducing the turbulence that wasted energy at high speed. Wind tunnel tests confirmed what the eye could see. Less drag meant more speed for the same power. At over 100 miles per hour, every square inch of resistance mattered. Streamlining turned the engine from a brute into a bullet, but the shell was only half the story. Underneath, Mallard's boiler was a pressure vessel built for extremes. Operating at 250 pounds per square and per square inch, it generated enough steam to feed 3 cylinders, each one driving a pair of massive driving wheels. The firebox and grate were oversized, designed to burn coal hot and fast, keeping up with the relentless demand at full throttle. The Killchap double chimney exhaust system pulled hot gases through the boiler more efficiently, drawing in air and clearing spent steam in a single, powerful blast. This was not just about brute force, it was about sustaining high power output for mile after mile. Gressley's design choices pushed British steam to its very limits. Streamlining and boiler power worked together, allowing Mallard to reach speeds that were once theoretical. But these same features also asked more of every component, from the bearings to the valve gear. The engine was built to win a race against air and time, not to cruise comfortably at 90. In chasing aerodynamic perfection and relentless pressure, Mallard became the locomotive that could run faster than was ever thought safe, or, as it turned out, sustainable. Beneath Mallard's gleaming shell, the real test was unfolding deep inside the motion. At 120 miles per hour, every moving part was pushed to the edge of its design. The three-cylinder layout, chosen for smoothness and power, meant the inside gear worked in a cramped, punishing space. With each revolution, the big end bearings, especially the middle one, were hammered by forces far beyond the usual express run. For a few minutes, the rods and crank pins spun faster than they ever had before, tracing tight orbits at over 500 revolutions per minute. But speed is not just a number on a dial. It's a physical burden that ripples through metal and oil. The load paths in Mallard's running gear channeled enormous stresses straight into the bearings. At high revolutions per minute, friction turned into heat, more heat than the white metal linings could safely carry away. The lubrication designed for hard service at 90 miles per hour faced a new kind of challenge at 126 miles per hour. Every extra mile per hour meant more pressure, higher temperatures, and less margin for error. Thermal expansion began to close up the clearances. Oil films thinned, and the risk of metal-to-metal contact grew with every second spent above the 100 miles per hour mark. The Killchap exhaust drew the fire hotter, feeding the boiler, but it also meant the cylinders worked at full stretch, piling on the mechanical load. The streamlined casing hid these struggles from view, but inside the engine was running close to the red line. Mallard's design was a masterpiece of British engineering, but it was also a compromise. The quest for speed demanded sacrifices, weight trimmed from bearings, tolerances tightened, and cooling left to oil and airflow. On paper, the machine could handle the numbers. In practice, the physical limits were always waiting, just out of sight, ready to make themselves known when the ambition outpaced the hardware. Inspection reports from the National Railway Museum describe what happened next with clinical precision. The middle big end bearing, buried deep inside Mallard's frame, showed clear signs of overheating. The white metal alloy, chosen for its ability to absorb shock and distribute load, had begun to melt. Metallurgists know this is the point where friction outpaces oil, and heat has nowhere to go. In the aftermath, the bearing's surface was scored, with streaks of discolored metal marking where the oil film had failed. This was not a simple case of wear. It was the signature of a machine forced past its safe limits. Mallard was removed from service at Peterborough and sent to Doncaster Works for repair. There, engineers scraped away the damaged white metal and remetaled the bearing, restoring the fit. The record had been achieved, but the evidence was etched into the engine's core, a reminder that speed always leaves a trace. The aftermath of Mallard's record run was shaped as much by the world outside the locomotive as by the damage inside it. Within a year, the outbreak of the Second World War brought high-speed experiments to a halt. Wartime needs forced the railways to focus on moving troops and supplies, not chasing records. Resources vanished, and so did the appetite for risk. After the war, the newly formed British Railways imposed a strict 90 miles per hour limit on express trains, prioritizing reliability over spectacle. The focus shifted to diesel and electric traction, technologies that promise speed without the punishing strain on metal and men. In this new era, the institutional will to push steam to its breaking point simply faded away. Mallard's record stood, not just because of what happened on the rails that day, but because the world around it changed and never looked back. There's a line where speed stops being progress and starts becoming risk. Mallard crossed it, and the scars remain. Today, the pursuit of too fast still tempts engineers and industries. But every record begs the same question: what are we willing to break just to go further?